All right. All right. We are live right now with Rod Costa. Now, Rod, the reason why I first heard about you, the reason why I wanted to get you on, because when I first heard about you, was my buddy went to caught your last event at Eternal, and
Yeah,
then he watched your fight against Justin Vanderheen, and I went
yeah.
online and watched it, and I thought to myself, "Holy shit, the dude's got, man, you've got hands." But then I look back for your record, and I was like, "Holy crap, this guy he's done BJJ for years. He's got a history of winning by a submission." And I thought to
Yeah.
myself, "You normally win by submission." So first question I wanted to ask you right off the bat was the game plan to knock him out in the first round, the original game plan for your last fight?
No, no, it wasn't to knock him out. The game, like, because I have such a grappling background. I've been working a lot with my coach on stand up, right? So Ben Vick has been working on my hands a lot. I train with some killer guys standing up, like Jack Della, Jack Becker, Josh,
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Gray, who's been the eternal champ like in the past. So I train with a lot of Danny Mini T, man. He, champion Muay Thai guy. Is that Scrappy there sparring all the time. So I train with a lot of good guys in striking. A lot of guys that beat me up. So we've been focusing on trying to get me comfortable there, and improving that area to catch up with the grappling, So the game plan wasn't to um, just strike, but it was definitely to not rush for the takedown, if that makes sense. So I didn't, if he presented a takedown to me, or if I thought he was there like an easy shot, or if in the process of trying to strike he hurt me, of course I'll go back to what I want to do, what I'm more natural at, which is the grappling. But if I keep avoiding striking forever, it'll never catch up. So the game plan was to go out there, fill it out, see if I can get comfortable and get more experience on striking, and eventually take it to the floor. When the opportunity came.
It's a solid way of putting it.
Yeah,
Now, you've got an incredible history in martial arts. I mean, looking down, you've spent all those years in BJJ and you've had all those profiles. But one thing I couldn't find much information on was your amateur career. Now, usually, the number one is for some reason one of my most go-to places or sources of information to find about fighters is usually Sherdog because it usually
yeah,
lists the amateur career and all that. So
yeah,
that I couldn't find. Could you give me a little bit of
yeah,
insight into your amateur career and how you first started competing in MMA?
yeah. Oh yeah. I was training with some friends, always focusing on jiu-jitsu, and at the
Mm-hmm.
gym that I was at the time, before I moved to Brazil, I lived in Brazil for a little bit the last 3-4 years. So
Mm-hmm.
before I moved to Brazil, I was at a gym that they had some guys sparring, some boxers, some MMA guys, and I always enjoyed that part as well. So I used to jump in on the sparring and do a boxing class here and there to get to just to obviously learn. But it's just sometimes when you're training so much jiu-jitsu or grappling, um, you kind of like, I wanted to get something a little bit fresher, learn something a little bit new, So, and it was a way to keep my cardio up and have fun at the same time. So I used to always jump on the sparring with the guys, and then I think one day I was just I'll do a fight. I did my first fight. I don't even know when it was. I think it's 2000. I think it's 2014 or something. Um, So I did my first C class fight, and then I just kept, like I kept doing jiu-jitsu, and whenever I had a break, I'll maybe do another fight. So it's basically like that. I didn't really train that much for the amateur fights, and I had six amateur fights. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I no, I had five amateur fights. Sorry.
Five
So I
edge
won I
fights.
won four. Yeah, I won four
Mm-hmm.
fights, and I lost one to Dan Jones.
Ah, I
Uh,
see.
and then I fought Dan Jones again as a pro, and I lost that too. So I got two losses to him. One as a pro and one as an amateur. Yeah. So it wasn't nothing planned, like let me get these amateur fights out of the way to see if I can turn pro. It was just literally in between my jiu-jitsu. Um, I jumped in there, and it's just competition. I like to compete, and I just wanted to do I just wanted to do a couple of fights.
Yeah.
Now I'm taking it a little bit more serious, but back in the day, that's how it was.
That's good to hear, man. Thanks for clearing that up,
Yeah,
by the way. I appreciate that.
yeah,
Especially when it comes to doing these podcasts or at least speaking to fighters. The last thing I want to do
yeah,
is get that shit wrong. So I'm glad we cleared
yeah,
that gap. Now,
yeah.
what
And
I
no,
really
no, like
want
just to clarify as well, you said the sure dog, and my record on the sure dogs is wrong, and I'm trying to
yeah.
I'm trying to correct that because like when I came back from Brazil, my record was 0-2. And like I said, like my two losses before this last few fights I started doing was from Dan Jones. I fought him twice, and I fought him once. It was amateur, 3-minute rounds, no elbows in Midland, and then the second was a pro fight, 3 5-minute rounds at Battle Colossal. And they and it used to be that the amateur fight was as amateur, and then the pros at pro as it should be, and then I think they have some connections with Sherdog or whatever. And the Jones brothers, they changed that, so they put both fights as pro. So my record when I came back was 0-2, which should be 0-1 as a pro, right?
Yeah, yeah, correct.
So my record, the two losses from Dan Jones still as a pro on Topology and on Sherdog, which I lost those fights. I accept that. There's no problem with that. But one of them was definitely an amateur. One was a pro fight. So my record officially is 4-3 now.
Yeah.
On Sherdog, but it should be 4-2. Just to clarify that.
That's good. I'm glad that actually does make a lot more sense. I just quickly scrolled over to it, and you're right. Hopefully, they do get around to correcting that because that's important. That's your record. That's not something you want to mistake. I mean,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and because you can the records is a funny thing, right? You can look at my record.
Yeah,
and it's 4-3, and if you don't know that the other Dan Jones fight should be amateur, right? But it could. Like before I fought Justin Van Heiden, I heard some people saying talking about my record because I'm 3-3, and but if you look at those, and I'm not trying to pat me on the back or anything, but if you look at all of my fights, both fights with Dan Jones, even I accept those fights and there's a loss. I'm not trying to make any excuse or anything. Both of those fights are really, really close.
Yeah,
I bet you can even ask them and they will tell you he won, but they were close fights. If the judge gave to me or to him, I'll think no one will call robbery, right? Personally, I think I won the first fight, and I think he won the second one. But that's fair enough. I accept the results. And then the second loss, which should be 4-2, my second loss is to Kant, which I think if you understand anything about MMA and you're not from his family, you think I won as well. So, I think record is a little bit misleading, But yeah, my records are the best.
Well, you said not to pat yourself on the back. Well, I am because, I mean, again, not to get too much in a record, but one thing you got to look at is your performances really do bloody speak for themselves because I'm one of those spectators that's I don't like to leave it up to the judges. I mean, I'm not a fighter, but I always say don't ever leave it up to the judges. Get in there, get it done. And that's something that you do specifically. Like, for example, a fight against David Krill, first round submission, fight against Rafael Viches, first round submission, fight against Jamie Hunt, third round knockout. That's, there's no that's the most clean cut you can get. So, and then the recent one was like a first round knockout, which is phenomenal as well. That's a highlight.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Got to give credit where it's due. Anyway, so now that we cleared that up, I wanted to really ask you about your BJJ background. And so let's give the viewers a little bit of insight. So how did you get involved in the sport?
Look, I'm from Brazil, so I knew about jiu-jitsu. It's a very common story. My dad introduced me to I saw that Choke documentary with Hickson Gracie with my dad when I was really young, and my dad used to like to watch fights and things like that, and that's how I got involved in it. And then when I moved over to Australia, I was a kid, I didn't really follow through with a lot of the stuff, so I start one thing and then stop halfway through. So I like always had in the back of my mind that I want to start training, but I never really took the step to go and sign up to a gym and go and do everything. So I started a little bit late. When I was 21, I just, after years thinking about doing it and not actually going through, I
Mhm.
messaged one of my friends. We went together in 2010, and then he quit after 2 weeks, and I never stopped training since then. So yeah, that's how I got involved. But yeah, through my dad, I got interested about it, and then here in Australia started training.
Oh, okay. So you said you started training when you were 21?
21, yeah, very,
Yeah.
very late. Most high level black belts, they're probably black belts already by like 20, 21, maybe 19. So I
Yeah.
started very late. Yeah,
Well, man, I started at the same time. I've only been doing it literally for just over a year now, and
yeah, it's
they
addictive, eh?
it is. Well, because I'll
Yeah,
tell you,
it's crazy.
this is. I mean, this isn't about me. Obviously, this podcast is about you. But I got bit by the bug when I competed in my first competition, which was in February this year at the AMA, which
Yeah,
was the white belt only competition, and I got fucking mauled. And then
yeah,
it, I took about 2 days off because my elbow was just absolutely fucked because I got armbar like 4 times in a row, and then
yeah,
and then
yeah,
that's how you grow though, because you
yeah, for
make
sure.
mistakes and then you learn from your
Yeah,
mistakes and then you
you
get
need the
better.
losses for sure. I'll
Yeah,
tell you
you got,
about my first comp. I
yeah.
started training in Feb of 2010, and I
Hmm.
think it was March there was a comp, or maybe I started training March and April there was a comp, something like that. I remember I
Yeah.
started training a month later there was a comp. I signed up, and then I went in the comp. My first match, I caught the guy with the triangle in like 30 seconds. And then by that time, I'm like, oh, I'm a genius. I'm gonna win this. Like this, like I was so full of myself. And then the second match, the first match, I just destroyed the guy. The second match, I like the whole match. Like I don't remember exactly what happened, but I was in guard. It seems like I was in guard the whole match, and there was one advantage on the board. And then one of my teammates back in the day kept telling me like, you're up, don't do anything, you good. And then when time ran up, I thought the ref was gonna raise my hand, and he raised the other guy's hand. So I lost my second match, and I was so down, man. I was I was so depressed. I'm like, I have to do the next comp because I have to, like I have to make this good. But yeah, the feelings of losing just make you want to train harder and harder. It's definitely what puts you up. But I just remember that it was a good story. I was just so devastated.
Well, it's good that you brought that up because those moments I believe are most important to a fighter. Like there's a saying like our failures are are our biggest lessons, and I kind of feel like in order for you to get better, you have to keep constantly failing. You have to keep losing in training. So when it comes
Yeah,
to game day, it's better to tap out on the mats than like tap out in the ring. I think that's one of the
yeah.
best things that someone told me in the sport. And then so now
Yeah,
you
like the losses, if you it kind of shows who you are, because like what I think what happens the most is if you can't deal with your losses and can't use it to get better, you're either gonna quit or you're gonna get better, right? There's two ways. So some people like might take that experience that you did, and you didn't do that well, and might just be like, oh man, this is not for me. I'd rather like I'll do something else, or I'll just keep training and not compete again, or like that person will have the mentality like, nah, I enjoy this. It was a good challenge. I need to, let me try to get better instead of shying away from it. So yeah, I agree on 100%.
awesome. Now, so you've been. Let's fast forward to today. How long have you been practicing BJJ for?
So 2010, so around 11 years and a bit. Yeah.
11 years. Oh wow! So you passed the 10-year point. That's good to hear. Because
Yeah.
normally, and you're a brown belt. Yes.
I'm a black belt. I got my black
Oh,
belt.
sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. I got a black belt 2019 April from Felipe Pena in Brazil. Yeah.
Very nice. Well done, man. And now you're running your own
Yeah.
show at a Costa Academy.
Yeah. So I moved back from Brazil end of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been open since June 2020. Yeah, so it's about a year we've been open, a year and a little bit. Yeah.
Awesome. So, tell me about the process of opening up your own little gym. What was that like for you?
My plan was actually to open up later, but what happened was I was living in Brazil, and I had a pretty serious injury, and I was out for a little bit, and that just got me thinking. I'm like, I think at the time I was maybe 30 or 31. I don't know. And my goal is to still stay in Brazil a few more years, maybe 2, 3 more years than what I did. But yeah, that injury just made me think a little bit, and I decided to come back a little bit earlier, and yeah, and just yeah. Sorry, some kids came in for the kids class, but yeah, I just decided to come back a little bit early just because of that. To be honest, guys, I'm in a meeting. I'll talk to you later. Yeah, and just to the injury made me maybe think a little bit more and change the plans a little bit. I think yeah, it was hard for me. It was really hard decision because I think I was in the best phase I was competing wise. I was training with a lot of tough guys in Brazil, learning a lot, and arguably training under the best guy around. Best pound for pound guy, and yeah, but I was caught in between. Like, do I keep competing, or do I start the next process of my life? Which is the gym and making the business and putting the effort into that. Which I still can compete with the gym, but it is a different focus. So yeah, it was a bit weird, but yeah, that's what made me come back a little bit early. And yeah.
It's good that you mentioned that as well, because you competed quite a fair bit. You've rolled with a substantial amount of guys. Now, looking in your MMA history, you competed at featherweight. What was it? I know that the weight categories are usually different across sport. So you competed at MMA featherweight. What were you competing? What was your weight category in BJJ?
Yeah. That's a good question. So in Jiu-Jitsu, you have to weigh in, and you probably fight maybe half an hour after you weigh in, right? And I've fought like lighter in Jiu-Jitsu than I have in MMA. So to give you an example, like 2012 was the first Worlds I did. The first World Championships in Jiu-Jitsu, I fought at 70 kilos with a gi, right?
Okay.
And then the first medal I got at the Worlds, I fought at purple belt 2014. I got third, and I fought at 70 again. But then that one where I got third, I fought a lot of people that are a lot bigger than me. I was just coming off of my training camp. I didn't diet or anything. I was fit, but I was the lighter guy there. Everyone was cutting weight, even though you fight on the same day. People still cut a lot of weight, So
did you
that
have to
made
cut
me.
much weight? Sorry.
I had to cut nothing. I was walking around 70, 71 maybe,
Awesome.
and so then that made, but because like I'm not making, I didn't lose because of the weight. I lost because the guy was better than me, but they were still bigger than me and made me go down. So in 2015 I went down to 64. So 64 with the gi. So I was 63 kilos. And that's a lot lighter than what I fight today. Featherweight 66. So I make weight easy, like easy. I just train hard, and then maybe a week, 2 weeks before the fight, I start watching what I eat, and I lose a couple of kilos in the sauna. I make weight easy, very very easy for me.
That's good to hear, because
Yeah,
normally some of the fighters I've spoken to,
yeah,
like, weight cutting is a bit of a grueling process, and it's some guys use the hot bath, some guys use the saunas,
yeah,
some guys use the sweatsuits. So
yeah.
when it comes to competing in MMA, what's the weight cut like, and how do you do it? Is it the same as BJJ?
Yeah. Like I said, it's easy for me. I just on the process when a fight gets booked, you just amp your training up a little bit more. I talk about this with my MMA coach all the time, Ben Vickers. Is like the guys that do well is the guys that don't do training camps. You got to be training the whole time. We have for example Jack Della. He's about to fight at the Contender Series, Dana White's. And he's never not training. He's always there if he's got a fight or not. That's the experience I have watching him. Jack Becker, my teammate, is the same thing. And all the guys that are at the highest levels that I know, they don't do training camps. Like, you amp up a little bit and you train a little bit more, but you always keep training. So that's what happens with me when I book a date. I just amp up the training a little bit. It's a little bit more intense, and your weight just drops down naturally. And then 2 weeks before the fight, I I start eating a little bit healthier. I'm already eating healthy, but I start eating less portions, you know, like less food, and then the weight drops down a little bit more because of that. And then the week of the week of the fight, maybe I have 3 kilos to lose, and I leave like a couple of kilos to a kilo and a half to lose in the sauna, you know. So yeah, for me it's easy. I know people that struggle a lot, and but I could fight bantamweight, you know. It would just be a struggle, and I don't want to go through that unless it's a big opportunity. But I think for my frame, I could be fighting a bantamweight, you know. But I don't feel weak, so I don't think I'm missing anything at the moment, you know, by fighting at featherweight. And it's more enjoyable being able to eat whatever you want.
Yeah, I think I'm glad it's good that you brought that up because some of the guys that tell me like weight cutting, like I said again, it's a grueling process. But I feel like based on the fighters I've spoken to, the ones who are actually fighting at a natural weight, you know, they don't have to disrupt the body or fluctuate their weight as much. Usually feel like they're best on game day. Do you agree with that?
I do for sure. There is something to say, man, about going through the process of losing weight, because you have to dedicate so much. You know, you have to put those extra hours of cardio. You have to do extra running. You have to do extra training. Otherwise, the weight doesn't go down, right? So there is something to say about that, and being and having that extra cardio to yourself, and then it gives you confidence knowing that first you dedicated that much, and second that you maybe you're a little bit bigger than someone else, you know. But I don't know, man. I think I've just competed so much. I've trained mostly with heavier guys my whole life. Like in Brazil, most of my training partners, you know, like Pena is about 90 something kilos. Like Servio, another good teammate of mine is 80 something. So most of the guys that I'm there training day to day, they're massive. So I'm comfortable with someone being a little bit bigger than me. It doesn't bother me. So I'll rather you know, like, yeah, feel better, because it's not really just the weight cut, right? The weight cut does it suck? It does, but I think most people would agree with me. The worst thing is doing the training camp without being able to eat as much as you want. You know, it's not really just the last week sucks, but like it always sucks. You know, you have to, if you have to lose 2 kilos, 3 kilos, it's never fun. You know, but like during the let's say you do a 6 week camp, right? You prepare yourself for 6 weeks. If the whole time you have to limit your calorie intake, it's suffering. You know, it's not fun. So I think that's the reason why I'm not cutting more. It's just for that reason. I feel like it's more enjoyable for me doing the training camp, being a little bit heavier and my natural weight. Yeah.
And that's
Does that
definitely
make sense?
that makes complete
Yeah,
sense,
it's
really.
more like the actual the weeks of training that you have to like already lower your calorie intake, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of feel like it also maximizes the training camp, which reinforces the importance of the training camp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
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 That's a good
100%. You
point.
feel better, you train better, you know? It's you might be a little bit lighter on the game day, and if in your head that doesn't matter, you know, if in your head like, because some people, if the other person's bigger than you, they feel intimidated, or they feel like, oh, I need to be the strong guy. I don't care about that, you know. So if in your mind you don't think that matters, I don't think it will matter in the fight, if that makes sense. So if you don't let that bother you and that creep into your head, is who cares if you're a couple of kilos lighter, or you know.
That's good. That's actually really good to hear. Now, in that training camp, how long do you give yourself between the first day to the fight? How many weeks roughly?
Um, I don't really structure it that well. It's just, I think it's basically from the day that I hear that I'm gonna fight, I start going a bit more focused, you know. And I've had like I fought 5 times since I came back to fighting, like in 2020. And a couple of those were short notice anyway, you know. So I fought like on 2 days notice, and then I
Wow.
fought and then I fought on like a couple of weeks notice for Van Heiden, you know. And Van Heiden fought on short notice as well, so like props to him too. But so a couple of those were even short notice, you know.
Well, so tell me, what was that like then, fighting on
One
two
second,
days' notice?
guys.
Yeah.
Can you quiet down a little bit, please? Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask you, what was that like then fighting on short, like 2 days notice? They just give you a call like, hey, Rod, do you want to fight on Saturday? Like, what was the story behind that?
There was man, the story behind that was I was talking to Ben. I was talking to Ben one day, and I was like, man, it would be pretty gangster if you know, like fighting on a couple of days notice or like short notice on the day's notice or whatever. Just talking like that, I'm like, that would be cool to do that one day. And then he literally called me a few days later. I was like, hey man, we have fight fell out in Gold Coast. Do you want to take it? And that was actually, to be completely honest, that was actually 4 days before, I think, or maybe 5 days before. And I said no, because I was really unfit. I haven't been training. And I was like, nah, man, that's just like, I know I told you that, but that's not the moment to do that now. And then he called me 2 days later with the same, like, man, like another fight fell out. Like, we really need you, something like that, you know? And then I was like, man, I'll do it. So I did it. I think it was something like that. I didn't do it on 4 days. And then he called me again. And then when he called me, I was like, let's go. But it wasn't a simple decision. I called a couple of friends. Most of them said it probably wasn't a good idea. And I was like, man. And then, yeah, I think I called Jack. I called AJ, which is the guy that actually eventually went with me. Um, and yeah, it wasn't easy, but I called, like, Ben called me on the second time, and maybe a couple of hours later I called him, and I agreed to the fight, and I was flying that same day, maybe 2-3 hours later. Yeah.
All right, man. That is gangster.
Yeah, so it's funny, yeah.
That is gangster.
Yeah, I was sitting down on the couch with my parents. They were visiting from Melbourne, and then my mom was like, "There's no way, don't do it." And then and I was like, "Mom, I think I'm gonna go. Don't hurt me." And then yeah, and then 3 hours later, I was on my way to the airport. Yeah, it was fun. It was very nervy, but it was super fun.
Wow. Oh, wow. Damn, that's it. That's gotta be
Yeah,
impressive. So now, since we're on the topic of like fighting, we're halfway through we're pretty much over halfway through the year right now. We're in
yeah,
July. Do you planning to fight again, or do you have anything booked for the rest of the year?
yeah. No, I don't have anything booked. I've been trying to, like, I've been told that I'll have the shot of the featherweight if everything goes according to plan, right? Nothing's promised. Everything changes every day with MMA. But I think if I think the champion is Jack Jenkins, I think he's booked to fight Muhammad Alavi, and I think they're gonna fight, and then I'll get the winner of that. But I don't really want to wait too much, you know. So because of a few of the cards being delayed because of COVID, at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what Ben thinks is best for me to do, you know. But if it's gonna take too long, I just I wanna be active, you know. I started fighting in October, and I fought like last time I fought. I think they told you on the broadcast. I think it's every 47 days I fought once or something since I started fighting. So I just want to keep active. I feel like I have you know, if I keep the ball rolling. You know, like you learn a little bit, then you fight. I just feel good. I feel good if I stay active, you know. So depending on how things plan out, and if it's gonna take too long, I've been trying, man. I've said some names to Ben. A couple of people refuse, to be completely honest, you know.
Wow. Okay.
I don't want to start too much internet bullshit, but a couple of people don't want to fight. And yeah, but hopefully soon, you know. I think there's supposed to be a card in October in Perth.
Yeah.
That's
what I've been told.
Yeah, if there's nothing booked for then, in terms of a title shot or anything like that, I want to take a fight there. I don't care who it is, just give me someone to fight with the guys in Perth. You know?
Well, Eternal, if you're listening to this podcast, give this man a fight. He's ready to go.
Yeah, let's go.
Like, and October's a good time as well because you got a couple months to prepare, even though you don't really actually sound as if you really need the time and all. But when there's one thing I like to ask every fighter, really, if you know, if there's anybody in any organization, I just don't think of it as a call out, but
Yeah.
anybody, any organization in general who'd like to fight, who would it be?
Who would it be? Man, I would like to fight. I don't know, man. I honestly would like to fight like a high level jiu-jitsu guy than I am, like a black belt, like someone like Bruno Malfacini, for example. He's fighting MMA, but he's too little. He flies a flyweight, but someone like that, maybe like
Coach.
I don't know, man, like a Ryan Hall type of dude. They'll be sick to fight. Like a really, if I'm like I'm nowhere at the level that he is. I'm not trying to call Ryan Hall out, but if that's like if you ask me, you can fight anyone you want, someone like that, maybe a BJ Penn when he was better at his prime, now he kind of fell off a little bit, but I'm not the high level jiu-jitsu guy that also transitioned MMA. I think that'll be fun,
Awesome, man.
because
Now,
it seems like I'm always paired up with like strikers, and there's always that, I can take him down. That always that narrative. I think it would be fun to be like to fight someone that's supposed to be better than me in jiu-jitsu. I think there'll be like an interesting fight. Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely see that for sure. Now, there's just one thing I wanted to ask before we all finish this up, man, because I've got to get my ass back to work. Now,
Yeah.
you've been fighting for quite some time, been competing for quite some time, and then I don't believe in the idea that everyone is a self-made man. I've always believed that there's always people and a camp behind every successful figure. So I just wanted you
Yeah.
to say this. Just wanted to ask you if you could take the time, or just for this question, is there anyone who you want to give a quick shout out to, or any sponsors you want to give it thank, or is there anyone in particular you want to extend some gratitude to?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. No one makes it by themselves, And in terms of like, who are the people that helped me get to where I am? Like, obviously they know who they are, But like my closest training partners, Marco, Jack, they've been with me for many years, and through everything that I've gotten close to achieve, all my world championships, all my national titles and everything, they were all close to me. They all training with me. So Jack, Marco, all the boys from Brazil, Felipe, my coach, all the training partners over there, and a massive shout out to Scrappy. Since I moved back to Perth, I started training at Scrappy MMA with Ben Vickers and the guys there, and it's been like one of the best experiences I've had training wise. Training with those boys, so I appreciate them as well. And just a shout out to Street X, as a supporter that I have. Browse, my jiu-jitsu sponsors. Yeah, there's a couple of other things in talks, but yeah, thanks to those guys.
Awesome. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this.
Sorry, before I forget, thanks to everyone at Costa as well, all my students, all my training partners here, who I train like. I said I train at Scrappy for my MMA and stand up and with all those guys, but all my jiu-jitsu is done in-house with my students and my friends that train here with me at Costa. So massive thank you to these guys as well.
Awesome. That's important. You don't want to miss that out.
Yeah, it's important. I almost forgot.
Yeah. Anyway, man, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time out of it. All the best for the future, man. And at the next fight that you have, hopefully in October, if you get booked in, I will definitely be there, man, cheering you on for sure.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good to chat.
All right. You take care, man. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks, brother.